Saturday, June 11, 2016 was Latin Night at Pulse Nightclub, which was located at 1912 South Orange Street in Orlando, Florida. Latin Night was a hugely popular weekly event hosted by Pulse. The night would bring in a large population of gay and Latino customers who would spend the night dancing, drinking, and talking with friends. This particular night was exciting because RuPaul's Drag Race contestant Kenya Michaels was set to perform. Around 2 a.m., 320 people were inside Pulse. The mood that night was said to be electric. People were in a great mood and getting ready to watch Kenya Michaels, who had just started performing. Despite the bartender calling last call, everybody was having an amazing time. Unfortunately, at that exact same time, a 29-year-old man named Omar Mateen arrived at Pulse in a rented van. He parked across the street from the club, grabbed his Sig Sauer MCX and a 9mm Glock pistol, and walked towards Pulse. Mateen shot and killed the bouncer and at 2:02 a.m. entered the club and immediately started firing into the crowd. Within seconds, dozens of people were either killed or severely wounded. Off-duty Orlando police officer Adam Gruler was working at Pulse that night, standing near the main entrance. Officer Gruler knew his pistol was no match for Mateen's high-powered rifle, but when he saw Mateen shoot and kill two people who were attempting to flee, Gruler started firing, but unfortunately missed. Although Officer Gruler knew exactly what was happening, many were not yet aware, as it was hard to recognize the gunfire over the loud music, especially for people who were further away from the shooter. It's not until an overwhelming smell of gunpowder and hearing people's screams did the realness of what was happening set in. At 2:03 a.m., the first 911 calls start coming in.
I think the shooter's outside the room right now.
You think the shooter's what?
Outside the dressing room.
Okay. All right, just everyone be quiet, don't move, okay?
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god.
It's now 2:05 a.m. and Officer Gruler is joined by two Orlando police officers who had just started to arrive. Officer Gruler yells to the police, "He's in the patio!" And they start firing at Mateen, which causes him to retreat to the back of the nightclub and hide in one of the bathrooms. Imran Yusuf, a 24-year-old Marine Corps vet who had just started bouncing at Pulse a month prior, is believed to have single-handedly saved more than 70 people that night. Yusuf had just walked to the back staff hallway when he heard the first gunshots. As shots were being fired, 100 or so people ran to that staff hallway for cover. Yusuf knew there was a door in the back that would lead directly outside. The problem was that it needed to be unlocked. He started shouting for someone to unlock it, but fear had set in and people were paralyzed. Yusuf started climbing over people to unlock the door, saving the lives of at least 70 people. Witnesses stated it was incredibly hard to identify where the gunfire was coming from because of the loud music. One woman said that she took cover by hiding inside a bathroom stall and covering herself with the body of an already deceased person. According to survivors that were trapped inside one of the two bathrooms, the shooter fired into the stalls, killing at least 2 of the 15 people hiding there. At this point, his automatic weapon jammed, which prompted him to switch to his Glock. One man named Eddie Justice texted his mom at 2:06 a.m. He says, quote, "Mommy, I love you. In club, they shooting." His mom responds back, "You okay?" And he says, "Trap in bathroom." At 2:09 a.m., Pulse posts on their social media, quote, "Everyone get out of Pulse and keep running." At 2:35 a.m., the shooter, who has now barricaded himself in the bathroom, calls 911 and says, quote, "I want to let you know I'm in Orlando and I did the shooting." When the dispatcher asks him to identify himself, he says, quote, "My name is, I pledge allegiance to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi of the Islamic State." He then hangs up. For the next 30 minutes, he is on and off with dispatch, who would call his phone only to be hung up on. During the third call, Mateen says to dispatch, quote, "You're annoying me through these phone calls and I don't appreciate it." He then pledges allegiance to ISIS and tells dispatch that he did this because he's tired of America bombing the people of Syria. He then mentions that the Boston Marathon bombers were his homeboys and hangs up. Days later, it's revealed that Mateen had been on the FBI's watch list because the FBI knew that he was, quote, sympathetic to terrorist groups, but was removed because authorities decided later that he was no risk. At 2:39, Eddie then says to his mom in a series of texts, "He's coming, I'm gonna die." By 2:49 a.m., Eddie texts, "He's in the bathroom with us." His mother responded by telling him that she loved him and begging him to text her back. Unfortunately, she never received another text from Eddie as he was shot and killed moments later. For the next 2 hours, 911 dispatch and hostage negotiators attempt small talk with Mateen, one, to better understand who the hell this guy is, and two, to plan a rescue for the hostages. The shooter could hear and see people on their phones texting, so at one point he told everyone to stop using their phones, which they did. After so much time went by, though, people started texting their loved ones again. The shooter then said, "Didn't I tell you guys to stop texting? Give me all your phones." He then asked the hostages, "Who in here is black?" A few people said, "I am," and he said, "I don't have a problem with black people." He then got on his phone with 911 and said, "I won't stop this assault until America stops bombing my country." Around 4 a.m., the shooter texts with his wife. She says, "Where are you?" To which he responds, "Did you see what's happening?" She says, "No," and he says, "I love you, babe." At 5 a.m., SWAT detonates an explosive that blows a hole into the outside wall which leads into the bathrooms. They then used an armored vehicle to breach the hole, but unfortunately, it only got them into the hallway and not into the actual bathroom. At 5:53 a.m., police shoot the terrorist 8 times, killing him. By this time, police had set up a makeshift meetup point at a nearby Hampton Inn and Suites for family members while they awaited news about their loved ones. Later, people spoke to the absolute horror of watching and listening to mothers and fathers learn of their children's death. The grief was just too much for some, who started vomiting in nearby trash cans. Mateen was a 29-year-old U.S. citizen born in New York but living in Florida. He was married, had a child, and had worked as a security guard. Police later learned he had entered Pulse Nightclub before the actual shooting to get sort of a layout of the building. He stayed for 11 minutes before leaving. He then moved his vehicle a little closer and returned with his 2 guns. Days later, we learned that in May of 2013, the FBI declared Mateen a person of interest and launched an investigation after he told coworkers that he had ties to Al-Qaeda. After a 10-month investigation, the FBI closed the case because they said they couldn't find anything concrete. Then again, in 2014, the FBI was notified after a friend of Mateen's told the FBI that he had been watching jihadist videos and that he believed in their message. Just like in 2013, the FBI decided it was not worth investigating any further and closed the case. Want to hear something crazy though? Despite being on the FBI's terrorist watch list on 2 separate occasions, the shooter had his Florida gun license since 2007. Here's the most insane part though. Even if he remained on the FBI's watch list for terrorists, he still would have been able to legally purchase a firearm. Let me say that again. Even if he remained on the FBI's watch list for terrorists, he would still have legally been able to purchase a gun. And no, I'm not anti-gun, I'm just anti-stupid. And it seems very stupid to allow someone who showed up on an FBI terrorist watch list twice to be able to purchase a gun with 0 questions asked. So what causes a 29-year-old husband and father to commit the second largest mass shooting in U.S. history? To kill 49 people in cold blood and injure dozens of others. The FBI believes that despite being born in America, he very much supported terrorist organizations, particularly ISIS. His father, however, said in an interview that he believes religion had nothing to do with it. He went on to say that recently their family was in Miami and Mateen saw 2 men kissing each other, which completely set him off. He was apparently furious that these 2 men would kiss each other in front of his wife and child. His ex-wife also came forward stating that he was extremely physically abusive and had worked very hard to isolate her from her family and friends. Their marriage lasted only months after her parents begged her to leave him. They officially divorced in 2011, but she did say that she never noticed him becoming radicalized. Mateen's wife at the time of the shooting was a woman named Noor Solomon. She was accused of misleading law enforcement agents and charged with aiding and abetting. She spent a year behind bars before her 8-day federal trial ultimately acquitted her of any wrongdoing. On October 19, 2023, the city of Orlando announced they had purchased Pulse Nightclub and intend on tearing it down and building a memorial in its place. As far as I can tell, it's still waiting to be torn down. Pulse Nightclub massacre, which killed 49 people, is the second largest mass shooting in U.S. history, only behind the 2017 Route 91 Harvest Music Festival in Las Vegas, where 58 people were murdered.